Hey guys, Drifter here. Today I've got some PlayStation 4 gameplay for you. I'm showing off Killzone 4, which is kind of the flagship shooter on that particular console, and I have to say this is an absolutely fantastically beautiful game. I chose this mission and this shot because it shows off Vecta City, which is probably one of the prettier parts of the game. Not the most technically impressive, but genuinely visually appealing and pretty. This is all rendered in-engine, and it looks very good. This is kind of a new thing for me. I've never played Killzone before. I'm not a fan of this series. And when I say that, I don't mean that I dislike the series. I haven't touched it. I didn't get into it. It wasn't my thing. It's totally new, so I'm jumping in on number 4 knowing absolutely nothing and having very little expectations. And by very little, again, I don't mean bad expectations. I mean, I just don't know what to expect. For those of you that are unfamiliar with my channel, last time around in the console wars, if you could call them that, I was mostly an Xbox guy. Not an Xbox fanboy, not a PlayStation hater. I just had an Xbox, and I was not interested in a whole lot of the PlayStation exclusives. I mean, I mostly just played Call of Duty, so I just had the Xbox and the PC, and I was happy with it. But this time around, I had the luxury of being able to afford both consoles, so I got the X1 and the PS4, and the PS4 so far has been good to me. It was a little bit buggy at launch. I was kind of mad. We had some of those data corruptions and freezes, but since then, since it's been updated, it's been running smooth and very, very nice. And today I wanted to talk about the game Killzone because it's a very new experience for me, and if you're new to the Sony family, so to speak, and you're playing this, I kind of thought that you might want to know what it's about or what you should expect, and I kind of wanted to talk about how I felt about it. So, first things first, Killzone, beautiful game. This is the best graphics on any FPS that I've seen in a very long time, maybe outside of Battlefield 4 or something, some PC games. I kind of felt like I was playing a PC game here. It was very crisp, very clean, very good looking. The touchpad also worked very well in this game. I was very annoyed with the touchpad early on that I had to use it because on the PlayStation 4 controller, the entire center of the controller is now a touch-sensitive pad, and I had these kind of extra buttons. I mean, I was used to my sticks and my bumpers and my buttons, but I wasn't used to swiping this pad and clicking the pad and doing things with the pad. But after a couple of levels and some trial and error, I got much, much better at it. And now when I play on my Xbox One, I kind of miss that pad. It feels like I'm missing some buttons and missing some options. And at E3, I played on both of the controllers. I played on the PS4 and the Xbox One. I like the Xbox One controller better because it was more familiar to me, but as time goes on, the DualShock 4 is really growing on me. I don't have much bad to say about the DualShock 4. I guess I could say I still kind of like my Xbox controller better. It's just sheerly out of familiarity, but the DualShock 4 is a huge, huge improvement over the DualShock 3, and it's a very nice controller. Anyway, let's actually talk about Killzone. From my perspective, the single player is very unique, very fun. It's different from other shooters that I've played. Of course, it's got the same kind of, hey, there's bad guys over there, let's go kill them and shoot them. But the environments are moderately interactive. I've got a lot of extra moves and some slowdown time, adrenaline. The health system's a little different. I've got some AI backup and some things that I'm not used to, mostly from Battlefield, Call of Duty, Arma, that sort of stuff. And the one thing I never really got is, why are the Hellgas the bad guys? Like, I get we've got Vectans and we're blue and we're nice, and the Hellgas are bad people? Like, what makes them so bad? What did they do that was so wrong? I mean, they dress bad, I get that. They've got the whole kind of like space Nazi thing going on, leather, red eyes probably doesn't help, but other than that, I don't know what they're doing wrong. So the single player, nothing but good things to say. Multiplayer, unfortunately, is a little bit boring. I tried multiplayer online. It was slower paced than what I tend to like. The multiplayer gun balance didn't make a lot of sense. The spawn points, and I had a very difficult time with it, kind of getting a feel with it. And when I did kind of get a feel for what was going on and how to play it, I just ultimately didn't like it. It wasn't the worst multiplayer. My God, I've played many things worse, but it just wasn't floating my boat. It wasn't that fast-paced kind of COD and Battlefield craziness that I like. Some of the other bad things about this game is that, like previous Killzone titles, it does have some FPS inconsistencies. In the single player, it has a tendency to stay, I would say, probably 45 to 60 FPS, but there are definitely some times where it drops down closer to 30, and I've had a few pretty bad FPS drops. The Killzone games in the past have been in 30 FPS, which was bad, or 15 or 20, but they have a tendency to push the graphics on the console to the absolute maximum, sometimes at the extent of the FPS, but if you're playing it, it won't be a problem very often. One thing that will be a problem, that will bother you, is that it has some sort of input delay. And by input delay, I mean When I hit my stick to move left, my guy doesn't move left. He thinks about it for half a second and then he moves left. When I pull my trigger to shoot my gun, he shoots a little bit later. It's not my controller or my console. The other games don't do this, but this particular game does. I think it might have to do with how much it's trying to be pretty and pump out these graphics. Some people told me this was a momentum mechanic, that it was common of all the previous Killzones, and that's why people didn't play it, and they did play COD, which has pretty much zero delay. I wasn't used to it. It took me a while to get used to it. I still don't like it, but I can still play the game okay with it. It's got a great variety of guns. Tons and tons and tons of guns. No shortage there, no shortage of grenades or gadgets or OWL AI or backups or anything. Unfortunately, it's not immediately clear to me which guns are good and which ones are bad. The pistols, in my experience, have been very bad. And especially the Hellgast guns, they're not explained very much. They have a tendency to kind of bleed together and, okay, this is assault rifle number 1, 2, and 3. This one's little, it's probably an SMG. And they do get a little bit generic. Maybe if I had played more of the series and I were more experienced and I knew what was going on, I would have a better idea of how that works. But unfortunately, the guns do all blend together. The melee combat works pretty well. I think you're going to see me break somebody's neck in a little bit. It works kind of like the new Call of Duty game, kind of like our Halo Reach, where you can run up behind them and grab them and break their necks, and you've got a nice little animation in most parts. It's a good game. It's fun. I'll probably get my money's worth out of it. I'm probably not going to do multiplayer. Once I'm finished with the campaign, I don't know exactly what to do with this game. I might try it on a harder difficulty, or maybe they'll have some DLC or something. But at the moment, for me, this feels like a really fun single-player game. It feels like a beautiful game that the PlayStation's going to use to show off how good the graphics are and what it can do and that sort of thing. If you own a PlayStation 4, I would highly recommend you look into Killzone and give it a go, because it is a genuinely fun game.